what is going to be probably the next $1 million trade? Where is the best opportunity, in my opinion, on this market right now? Let's talk about it. But before we talk about it, I do want to give a few updates. For one, the Growth and Gains podcast now has its own official YouTube. So go follow that channel if you want to see those future episodes, highlight clips, or shorts. They will all be posted solely on this channel. You can use the link down below in the description of this video to find that channel, because if you try to look it up using YouTube, it's not going to pull up very well due to the fact that the algorithm does not like channels that do not have uploads. So once we get more on there, you'll be able to more easily find it, much like this channel at the beginning was like nearly impossible to find, which is why it's so hard to grow a channel from scratch. Hoping that a lot of you will hop right over this channel and we can kind of skip some of that bumpy, rough start. But it is what it is. I think it's good to diversify because we're trying to get sponsors for the podcast, and I think it's better for them to see that, hey, this is a very niche podcast with one goal. This is what you're supporting, rather than like all the other content that I do, which might be harder to sell because I'm even more specialized and more niche in what I do. So one more update and then I'll talk about this trade idea. I've completely rebuilt the Nobel Trading website. So I thought it had become pretty outdated from our goals, the vision, and I thought the About Us kind of sucked and the website was kind of bloated anyway. So I basically tore down 90% of it, rebuilt it, new taglines and everything. So if you want to check this out, that's cool. The Growth and Gains podcast RSS feed has also been cleaned up and updated as well. It now displays properly. It was a bit of a mess, and the shop is going to get updated. This upcoming week, I have a bunch of designs I'm going to put on it. A lot of this is just personal. It's just for me. I don't have high margins on these. I'm not like trying to make a ton of money off these. It's just like pretty much because I want cool designs on shirts that I want to wear personally. And if you happen to like them too, that's cool. I'm going to put a gym bag on there, some coffee cups, maybe a blanket or something, just because I think that's fun. Now, before I talk about this trade, let's talk about the market in general. I've had absolutely fantastic month of September when it comes to trading. I've been doing really well on the market. We were coming into September very bearish. It played out very well. A lot of the targets that I had listed have been playing out. Discord members have been going back and looking at the charts and saying like, wow, that Netflix, after I did call out on Netflix, critical support, the following week dropped another 15 points. SPY ended up hitting my 225 target. We did see an intraday break down to 422, which was another target that I had already said could potentially come down. We saw a bounce there from there though as well. So if you look at the daily marks on SPY, 425 was still the support that we saw. Even though you saw that intraday plunge, it did recover before the end of the day, and we've seen that hold up. I think that the short-term low for SPY could be in. However, be aware of the government shutdown that's coming could be coming, because that could be a huge factor. We've seen different estimates from sources like Goldman Sachs saying that could lead to a 0.2% decline in GDP for the fourth quarter for every week that the government is shut down. Keep in mind, the average shutdown is about 8 days if you don't factor in the two extreme shutdowns that occurred after the 1980s. Most notably would have been the 2018 shutdown that I believe was 34 days. It's pretty extreme. However, it should be noted that over time, when the government shutdowns, these are getting longer and longer. I don't think that there is enough information here for me to make a prediction on how long this could be, whether it will even occur. We will know by midnight tonight on what that is. Before this video even comes out, there could be some news. This is changing very rapidly by the moment. It's just one of those things. because of the uncertainty on this on Friday, I didn't want to make any trades. I was also looking at the VIX index for the market. I was noticing that, hey, there's not a lot of pickup and volatility, which means I don't think that there's a lot of fear. However, this could be a miscalculation by the market, and that miscalculation could end up leading to a more extreme reaction from the market if there is an actual shutdown. So just be aware of all of that. That's a lot of uncertainty. Because of that, I didn't really carry over a lot of trades unless they were longer term. I have some leap positions that I'm fine carrying over to that. There's also been some speculation from people on Twitter that the government shutdown could cause some issues with the debt ceiling or cause some issues with treasuries. I think it's important that we be aware that the Federal Reserve is not a part of the government. If the government shuts down, they will continue to function. They always continue to function. So all of those concerns are not justified. That doesn't apply to this situation. And I'm actually shocked at how many people who are financial professionals even that across the socials seem to not know this. That should be pretty common knowledge, but apparently it isn't, and so I think it's worth saying. Now let's talk about this trade idea. And as you can see, we're looking at bonds. Bonds look really interesting to me. Now, in the past, bonds have been really rough. Coming into 2022, it was my worst trade of the year after we had the second worst performances in bonds since the beginning of markets. And again, bonds have not looked good this year. A lot of that is because the Fed was able to tighten more than people expected. And now it's expected that they can keep these interest rates high for a prolonged period of time. I am now already, though, starting to say, can they, though? And I think the market is as well. This is very oversold conditions for a TLT. I mean, just think, if this were a stock for a company and you knew this company could not fail because it's backed by the largest number one government in the world, wouldn't this look really appealing? We got a high of 180 and we're near lows of 2003 right now. I mean, it would look really appealing. I don't. It's not the fairest comparison. And as you can see on the weekly, we're still pretty, really bearish momentum here on the TTM. I would mention that the RSI, when they see the RSI break into these deep oversold conditions, what you're looking for is a consolidation of the RSI as the market breaks to another new low. We're seeing that play out on the weekly. When we come over to the daily, though, we're seeing that it's starting to roll over a bit. And this doesn't look the most bullish by any means. However, it does mean that some consolidation is likely to come around. If we go over to the 4-hour chart, it starts to get a little bit better. We can see that it looks like it has the potential to roll over. So when I'm looking at these technicals, I'm like, these aren't the best yet. The 1 hour is actually looking bearish. Half hour bullish. Okay, so we got a daily and a 4-hour and a half-hour that seem to be aligning. We have a 1 hour and a weekly that we want to see start to roll over as well. If we can get these to align, because alignment of all different charts, different periods of time is how you should be implementing TTM squeeze into your technical analysis. One of the best trades you can go for, and I mentioned this in the Discord, I feel semi-frequently, is when you have your daily and your weekly TTM squeeze both start to do at the same time pretty much what this 4-hour is doing. Like if you start a daily and a weekly start to fire green like this at the same time, synonymous concurrently with one another, that's a huge trade signal. Usually means that you're in a wave 3 for a Elliott wave analysis, which is usually your strongest impulse wave that will make the largest move. Okay, so that's how you want to use this in conjunction with other technical analysis. Now, of course, I'm not just using technical analysis to kind of come up with this trade idea, right? In fact, some of my TLT calls go all the way to August of 2024. All right. This is not a short-term trade idea. And in fact, I'm not even positive, due to what we see on the weekly, that the lows are truly in for TLT. But I am looking at the premiums on the option contracts that are available and saying, okay, these are really cheap for year-long exposure. If we're anticipating the market to be as bad in 2024 as people are saying, if I don't think that the banking issues are done, and we could see a hard, well, I think we'll most likely see a hard crash like we always have when the Fed, is in a reactive position like they are now. They're not going to pivot until they cause a recession or they see something break. They're openly telling you this. They're saying, oh, we want a soft landing, but then literally telling you that they aren't going to lower rates until they quite literally break something. Okay, that's a hard landing. They're saying soft landing, but their actions and their plan of attack leads to a hard landing. So given where this is, and given, if you traded this into 2020 on COVID, it was already at 140, jumped to 180. That's 1,000% trade. 1,000% trade. $100 turns into $1,000. So I'm looking at this right now. I'm saying I'm going to start a position a year out. This is a crash thesis, black swan event type trade. I think timing is going to be nearly impossible. Let me just get this exposure over a long period of time. You could probably even use this type of position as a hedge in a larger investment portfolio. And I have actually also done some long dated puts for SPY at the 350 strike. Because like big banks like Goldman Sachs are saying, that's actually where they expect the bottom of the market to be in 2024. So if you think it looks rough right now, just keep in mind that, there seems to be a lot of consensus around the fact that 2024 could be pretty rough. I think that you should also probably have some concerns about that amount of consensus on that, because most people are typically wrong. So if the crowd starts piling into this idea, I would be a little bit concerned. However, I don't see the crowd getting bullish on TLT. I see most people saying that, starting to carry their projections almost indefinitely. TLT is just going to keep bleeding forever. The Fed's just going to keep the rates high for, forever. Who knows when they're going to pull them back. And so when things start to get unreasonable like that, and there's not some sort of timeline or set date available, that to me seems like the top for the sentiment on the bearish side. And so now I'm going to be looking to get bullish on this position. And I think this will be I thought it was good, had the potential to be the best trade this year. And it's like most of my macro thesis is turning out to be likely pushed off further down the road, because it's hard. If you're trading off macroeconomics, you need to remember these things move slow. You're moving with one data point a month, right? So I am now this time giving myself a full year from now, almost a full year from now, 11 months from now, to let this thesis play out. And I do think that this will probably be one of those big lifetime trades. You don't get opportunities like this a whole lot. And this could bleed more in the short term for me, but I think this is a pretty great opportunity. I personally like trades like this where I kind of set it up and then I just let it run, and I don't really have to pay attention to it too much, because it's pretty likely what's going to happen. I'm going to have to manage the trade, of course, the position if it bleeds against me further. Our lows for TLT come all the way to 80. I mean, we're only $8 away from that. So I don't see a lot of bleed potential. If you break lower than that, I mean, you might have some more serious issues going on. So nothing certain. Nothing is a free lunch. Okay. So just keep that in mind. But this, I think, is your $1 million trade idea, is getting long on bonds. well, TLT, long bonds, long treasury bonds. So that's going to be it for this report. This report's already longer than most reports. And I wanted to talk about some other things, but they're in the Discord. So, click the Discord link down below if you are already a member of the Discord. I will say I'm doing a Q&A tomorrow. So if you have any questions that you want to ask me that I don't cover in these videos, or you want to drill me about a particular topic, that's your opportunity to do so. I'll be doing that with several moderators in the Discord who are traders as well. So you can ask us anything, whether it has to do with the videos, the market, my setup, or whatever it is. I'll be, spending about an hour just hanging out and just answering any questions. Satiating your curiosity. And that's going to be it for this report. Next week, I'll probably talk about some individual companies in greater detail and some theses. I will mention that video about fintech, being bearish on fintech, those trades are all doing well right now. And I still think those are really good. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out.